Hi, my name is Olivia Campbell, and I read for Cleo.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Campbell, and I read for Katrina.
Hi, I'm Danny Campbell, and I directed the audiobook recording of Like Mother, Like Daughter by Kimberly McCreight.
So, the genesis of this production came from Brian Ramacharan at Penguin Random House, who reached out to me and said, "Hey, I heard that you have a daughter who sometimes narrates audiobooks too. I have this title, and I wonder if the two of you would like to audition for it." So I sent that email to Olivia, and she jumped at the chance, and that was the beginning of it. And then after we got the job, I said to Brian, "Hey, how about we get that really well-known director guy, Danny Campbell, to spearhead this thing?" And he wrote back, "Amazing idea." So that's how we all came together to do this.
Well, I can speak a little bit about how we brought the performances together. Cassandra and I are in Los Angeles. Olivia's in New York. Um, so we talked a little bit about the book when they were auditioning, mostly the two of them. But the prep for the book was, in the sense of them reading each other's characters, it was pretty easy because, and I was amazed by this, especially when I was recording with Cass, because when she read Chloe's parts, I'm just like, and she has some of her dialogue, I'm like, oh my God, she sounds just like Olivia. And the same thing with Olivia when she was reading Katrina's parts, she sounded like the mother. In terms of other characters that they both speak, as the director, I prepped the whole book and I talked to the author. Um, and I suggested, since they're not in the same room, they're 3,000 miles apart, that some of the characters we recognize as people they're both familiar with. So I would make little notes like her best friend, who was Katrina's law student friend from college. I said, this reminds me of one of Olivia's mom's friends who we know. So that they had a quality of a person and a personality. So they didn't have to imitate and sound exactly like it, but they had an idea of who this person might be.
I would say I would say that was definitely a huge benefit of all of us getting to work on this project together, and it was a lot of fun when prepping for the book to think about the characters, as Danny just said, my father, of thinking about, who does this character encapsulate that we know, and then when we were actually playing the characters, just thinking about those people in our lives and remembering them throughout the process, which was a lot of fun. And hopefully will come across when you hear, my chapters versus my mom's. But I will say, prepping for at least Cleo's role, I really tried to think about, she's kind of this brooding young adult who is wanting to be in the world and have independence, but maybe isn't fully ready to, and needs her parents, but also has complicated relationships with them. And I was trying to think back to like some of the ages where things just feel really hard and you want to be an adult and you want responsibility, but you're not really ready for that either. And so that was fun to get to think back to those times, also do this book with my parents who knew me at those times, and convey that through the story. So that was fun.
Well, different for both. I mean, I've directed Cassandra numerous times, and that tends to work out really well for us. I remember once after we worked on a book, she said something like, "We should just work together all the time." And I'm not sure if she meant as opposed to just be married together, or. But anyway, we have a great relationship when we work together, and we have a certain. We know how to do things. We play little games. We get on Zoom. Sometimes she's in the garage and I'm in the living room or at my desk or something, and I'll say, "Good morning, Mrs. Campbell. How are you?" Even though we've just had breakfast. And but anyway, we have a good working relationship, and we know how to talk to each other. Olivia, I've directed a couple times, but she was much younger, and she hasn't narrated as many audiobooks. So, And she doesn't come from a primary actress background, although she has a lot of acting background training. I mean, she went to a performing arts school and was surrounded by friends in Los Angeles that went to the performing arts high school and was raised going to theater around us. So she has a really good sense of this. Um, but the way I talked to both of them and dealt with them in the studio was a little different. Olivia and I have such a great relationship that I had to be completely honest, or that's the thing. You can't suddenly just say, yeah, that's really great. Just do it like that. And go, oh my God, we're in trouble, because, not that I ever had to do that, but it just, we know each other so well and we're so honest with each other that you couldn't do that even if I wanted to. So, yeah, it was a little newer with Olivia just because we don't work together, but because we have such a strong relationship, I think we had a good time. That was the goal. I mean, the story's really fun. I mean, it's a really fun read. And that was our goal, is just to have fun with it. And I think we did. And I think she was excellent. Both of them were excellent.
Oh, but I agree. I think that it must have been, fun for our engineer to sit with us. And I was with him in person in New York. So, of course, it's a different dynamic. We can't hide the fact that he's my dad, I'm his daughter. But I think it was also a really professional relationship. And it was fun for me to get to hear my dad and see him in action. And he made me feel really confident, but he also gave me really constructive, helpful feedback, which actually made me feel even more confident in what I was doing. Like I was being taken seriously, and I was performing, and so it was really fun. And we were remote, so we weren't together in person. And I think that also was actually kind of nice, because it was like I was in a studio on my own with an engineer. And so we had this very structured setup, and we would get on Zoom and, have our time where we were working. We didn't have a lot of like time to hang out and chat, which we, get to do all the time. But it was really fun process.
Well, getting to do a book that involves, multiple members of the family is just such an amazing pleasure. It's so fun. We don't do it obviously very often. So, I mean, Danny and I do work together all the time. And we have we did a lot of theater together. And so we have a really easy, comfortable language that we share in terms of what we want to do with a scene or a character, or, even just the technical aspects of the book. And then adding Olivia into the mix of that, and being able to kind of hear what she's doing and then play off of that, and kind of, the characters are sort of opposite to who we are. So playing against type is always really fun. I mean, that's one of the joys of doing audiobooks, is getting to stretch yourself inside a character or a world that you don't usually occupy. And so in this case, that was just heightened by the fact that, there was this distance in terms of who the characters are, but then this like real closeness in terms of who we are collectively. That is just so much fun. We really had a blast with this one.
There, if I can add one more thing, there was one really difficult thing about working with your family on this book together, which was, as the director, it's my job to prep the book, to read the entire book, and to communicate with the author and ask any questions about pronunciation and characters and possible accents and tempo and mood and feeling and anything. Some authors are more involved than others, and I'm reading it, and because we work usually during the day, the prep work happens at night. And so Cass and I are in bed and prepping books that we're working on, and I'm reading this book for the first time, and it's kind of late, and all of a sudden Cass hears me, goes, "Oh no, oh no, oh no." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "There's a sex scene." And I don't want to blow it. It wasn't completely a sex scene, but I said, "Olivia's in this romantic scene. I can't do this." I said, "They're just starting to kiss, but I don't like where this is going." And Cass said, "Don't worry, I'll fill in for you as a director if you can't be in the room." And thank God it wasn't a real big sex scene. It was more of a romance scene.
Yeah.
But which is always awkward as a director when you're working with narrators who you don't know, and they're probably nervous and you're directing a scene like this. But Olivia went through it, and again, it was romantic. And then when she finished and got to the bottom of the paragraph, I said to the engineer, I think his name was Nick, I said, "Nick, I kind of just fell on the ground. I didn't hear a word of that. Did it sound okay?" And Olivia said, "Dad, Dad, Dad." And it did sound okay.
I think from my perspective, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, I think, while the character of Cleo I don't necessarily relate to, especially in circumstance. She's under this really scary situation where her mother has gone missing and they have a really tumultuous relationship. I tried to really focus on the underlying emotion that she was feeling, and kind of what I was saying before of this young adult that is feeling so many complicated things, and also perceiving her parents as adults with their own unique history and ways of living in the world, for the first time. And I remember feeling that way. I think that's just a universal experience when you start to realize that your parents are also just human beings, and they're not just parental figures that can protect you from everything in the world. So I think I really just tried to reflect on that, and move through the story from that viewpoint, even though, like I said, the circumstance is so different from the relationships I have with both of my parents. And so it was a challenge at times, but it was also, like my mom said earlier, really fun to get to immerse yourself into that world. And her being in New York City and going to places that I've been to, and, walking down the street and almost getting hit by an ambulance and feeling so overwhelmed. I know that feeling. So there were just moments where I got to play into that, which was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that playing characters who are kind of against type in this book, the question of who these characters are compared to who Olivia and I are in real life is a question of opposites. Because we have this really close relationship in real life, and Olivia's always been this, ace student, good girl, high achiever, and so there hasn't been those particular conflicts. But like, one of the things that came through for me in playing this character is, the fierceness of a mother's love, the willingness to do anything to protect your child. And that is a commonality that I shared with Katrina, that and the fierceness of that in a very propulsive situation inside the book. Um, you know, that's something that I think, again, there's a kind of universality in terms of, like, your child, you'll do anything to protect your child, and your mother instinct is so fierce. Um, and then kind of the outward trappings of who these people are just so much fun to play, because Katrina is, this sort of more high powered businesswoman, lawyer, and I am, an audiobook narrator with a very different orientation in the world. But there is that part of you, right, that wants to get inside that, and inside that headspace that recognizes that pressure system of what it means to have that kind of ambition and drive, and the book is constructed so well in terms of that it was just really fun to play. So yeah, kind of a stretch, but also like right in the road. So when we have a family group chat that we exchange everything in, and our son, who's in college now, who also has done some audiobooks, Danny often sings "It's a Family Affair," um, which it has with the kids growing up. They would periodically say, "Can we please stop talking about audiobooks at the dinner table?" Um, But so when he found out that we were doing this and we had gotten the job, he wrote in our family group chat, "Wow, that is so cool. Tell her to write like fathers like sons." So yes, we always love the idea of doing this kind of thing together. It's just, it's something that the kids have grown up with audiobooks and the whole audiobook community, and we love it. What a great kick to be able to do this.
Sometimes as a director on the West Coast, you direct people on the East Coast, and you wake up. You have to start at 7 a.m. I'm usually awake, but no, that doesn't mean you want to start work at 7 a.m. But I got to tell you, we did it over the weekend, and I woke up and I couldn't wait to get on that Zoom because I thought Olivia's going to be in the studio. I get to work with her all day. And she had texted and said, it's like we're hanging out all weekend. And so would I like to do it again? Absolutely. It was great.
Yeah, likewise. It was a lot of fun. I would definitely do it again. I think, they both alluded to this, but my brother and I, we grew up around audiobooks. We grew up being read to. Our parents, that's one of the huge benefits of having parents who record audiobooks for a living, is that they're the best storytellers. And so I think that also made this process so much fun for me to get to do that and play with tone and character and dialogue and, practice this thing that I've just been immersed in my entire life. And this story was just the perfect reintroduction for me into the world of audiobooks. It's such a fun read. I'm super excited for it to come out. Great summer read, and just really, I think, encapsulates the kind of complicated nature of family. And it's obviously a thriller, but there's a lot of really kind of universal learning lessons about, family and chosen family and adulthood that I think are really fantastic, and the author did a great job at. So looking forward to getting to listen to the whole thing. Thank you so much for watching. We can't wait for you to listen to Like Mother, Like Daughter by Kimberly McCreight, available now on audio.